This way. Touch me, bro. Don't touch me. Do not touch me. Bitch, don't touch me.
Yo, this is unnecessary.
She got a kid with her. She got a baby with her. She got a kid with her, man. That's too much, man. You're a female, that's too much. She got a mask on. She got a mask on. The baby even got a mask on. That's too much, man.
You still need the mask on. All right, but you ain't even getting a chance.
7,000 people in the building right now with no mask.
Back off. She's not gonna hit a cop. She's not gonna hit a cop. Back away.
I am, bitch.
You heard her? You can't hit a cop.
All right, get off me. I'm not tussling. Get off me.
That's too much. Yo, take your kid with her.
Yo, what you doing? Get that phone back.
I got all y'all faces.
That's not right, guys. I'm not out of here. That's not right.
I got bugging. I got all y'all faces.
Back the fuck up.
Back
I don't give a fuck about back up.
Oh, you ready to No, that's fine.
Back up.
You're gonna hear a complaint tomorrow.
Back up.
Yo, you're gonna hear a complaint from the mayor's office
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Great.
Right?
Are you backing up or are you backing
Not
up?
because it is, but because they're ready to pepper spray me, bro.
Back up!
What's going on? That's not necessary. He's not a threat to you guys.
I'm not a threat to y'all.
Bro, I'm 20 feet away from you, bro. No, that's
Do you
fine.
live here?
That's fine.
Yes, I live here.
Then go inside.
Nah, what
You want to go
you
with
did to
him?
him?
Do you want to go with him?
Bro, what you did that to him, bro?
I ain't do nothing to
Do you want to go with
What you
him?
did that to him, bro?
He said
I got you on video the whole time.
Then
I
go.
recorded you the whole time.
Get inside.
Nah,
Bro, I gotta go in the house for
Yes.
I got you on video the whole time. No. Y'all
Bro, I
bugging.
ain't not do nothing, boy. What did I do to you, yo? And y'all just hit me in my face? Oh, yeah, bro.
We did chilling in front of the building.
What are you looking at? You want to go with your friend?
For what? What we doing?
For not wearing a mask.
July 5th, what?
Go
ahead. July 5th, what? That's
17557
nothing.
AMELLO.
July 5th. July 2004.
I ain't got nothing, no weapon on me. Y'all just back up for no
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah,
Right.
Good.
I'm gonna back up.
Good idea. Good idea.
You a tough guy. You a very tough guy. Alright. Niggas ain't even do nothing, bro.
I explained before.
He said,
Nah, you all night.
He did that.
Stand around.
Okay, he just did that shit. Look,
We was trying to go away. Y'all shaking
your
the order.
man's got some type of issue.
Vocabulary issue.
Hold on, Mike.
You got an issue.
That's not his phone. That's my phone. That's my phone. That's my phone.
Get back.
Yo, that's my phone. What are you doing? How you taking my phone?
Why doing one more time?
Yeah.
No, I told you my stuff already. I could go. For what? You got an iCard.
Adam Clayton Powell said, use what's in your hands.
That's right.
If you got the power in your hands, use it. Don't give it right back to your oppressors. Most of our people don't even realize how powerful we are. So I tell them, like, all powerful empires rise and fall. Look at the Roman Empire. It rose, it fell. The British Empire, remember they used to say the sun never set on the British Empire. Now there's some little mud pat in Europe talking about Brexit, the exiting, you know, and then the crises. We're going to win. We're winning right now. We just don't realize it. And it's not, we have to do it by ourselves. They're going to be fighting each other. There's going to be different groups. This thing is coming down. Capitalism has been damaged as much as anybody else during this crisis. I want to remind you of the what is that? The bubonic plague. Remember the bubonic plague in Europe? A third of Europe was affected way back then, the 1500s, the bubonic plague. And the system then was feudalism. Feudalism was the white European way of enslaving the serfs and giving the lords the land, landlords, that's where that came from. The king gave the lords the land, so they became landlords, and the knights were the army. Feudalism was struggling before the bubonic plague, and once the bubonic plague hit, it collapsed. Capitalism was struggling before the coronavirus. Right. America went from a creditor nation to a debtor nation. America is in $21 trillion worth of debt. Who did they borrow the money from, and where did they spend it? It wasn't in the hood. They are in trouble. Why do you think Trump and them are saying, look, I don't care if all y'all die, we open this economy back up? Because capitalism is in a major crisis. This is the time for us to strike our mighty blow. This is a time for us to unite, because when capitalism falls, it's going to fall on our head if we don't get it together, because we caught up in this system. This is the only system we know. So we got to make sure that we have this kind of consciousness raising time. Since we're inside, this is the greatest time to think.
It's true.
You're inside, you might as well think and try to plan your way. Every morning I get up and I think of, how am I going to make revolution in America? I don't wake up turning on the TV, seeing what's happening on the news. I don't wake up and thinking about my things to do, all the stuff I have to do in the day. I think about revolution. What's my vision? How am I gonna, who I got around me? Are we making any sense? Are we making any progress? Evaluate, reevaluate, celebrate some victories. What direction should we go in? Are we doing right? Then I think about, okay, what do I got to do in a day? Capitalism stole your ability to think progressively, creatively, imaginatively. It has you reacting. So if they kill us, we react. They close a school, we react. They close a hospital, we react. As long as they can keep you reactive instead of proactive, they got you.
Right.
One of the things that happened just today, de Blasio had a press conference, and a lot of the time was devoted to Police Commissioner Shea. And he seemed to be very wounded that you would, not you personally, although I'm certain you have, but that people would see his police department as racist based upon 10 seconds of a few videos here and there. Obviously, he does not think that we are privy to all of the information that is coming out. Not only do we see people like Police Officer Garcia and his reprehensible actions on the Lower East Side, but we also see the way that the police department treats whites and the way they treat Orthodox Jews in Brooklyn. And I want to ask Noel, who is responsible for setting policy for the police department? Because Garcia, this is not an aberrant act. He has done this over and over and over again, and some hand of God-like system says it's okay and keeps putting him back out there. And he is not an aberration. This seems to be the way business is conducted. Who is responsible for setting policy in the police department?
Well, ultimately, you know, you have to find out who doesn't have a boss. Because everybody who has the boss is not totally in charge. The police commissioner is in charge of the police department, but the mayor is in charge of the police commissioner. If the mayor wasn't satisfied with what the police department was doing, he would tell the police commissioner, you know, that's not, you know, the man about which I want the police department going. You remember when Mayor Giuliani was the mayor, he ran the police department.
Yes, he did.
He said police commissioner,
community policing is out the window. We're not babysitters. And that's what the police commissioner went with.
Right.
You know, he got his orders from the mayor. So the police commissioner, and then as you know, communications go downhill. You have borough commanders, and you have, precinct commanding officers. But the racism that exists within the New York City Police Department, it's not only relegated to these little sporadic incidents. New York City Police Department is racist throughout. It's racist in terms of its employment practices, its disciplinary practices, its, the promotional practice, discretionary promotions. It's a racist police department. It's been sued numerous times. You have police officers, Black and Latino police officers who've come forward and sued the police department because it's discriminatory practice. Shay is aware of it. He's not new to New York City Police Department. So I like to call it political theater. They go through the motions and have these sound bites. They're in denial. New York City Police Department is a racist institution. It's been racist before I was on the job, and it's been, racist afterwards. We talked about the way different communities are treated. Everything is on video. And, as I stated, if the mayor wasn't satisfied with some of the things that the police department was doing, he would step up and make a definitive comment saying, I'm not satisfied with this. These are the improvements that I want made.
Period.
But he can't say that. I mean, like I said, it's political theater when he says that he's surprised that communities of colors are outraged. At this, it's a cumulative reason why there's so much dissatisfaction with the New York City Police Department. It's not only some of the incidents that are happening now. And if you have a good relationship with somebody, and you make a mistake and you err, if the relationship is solid, you can move beyond that. But that's not what happens far often not between the New York City Police Department and communities of colors. There's a horrible relationship. There's a level of disrespect, level of abuse, and there's a host of reasons why that exists. And they're not serious in addressing that. They only go through the motions, and I stated, I see it as
exactly. And that's why I don't even talk to the commissioner. I don't even deal with the mayor. We've had phone conversations because I already know what their response is going to be. We're going to investigate that. If there's any wrongdoing, we're going to take care of it. But don't make all the police officers look bad for some isolated incident when it's a systemic problem.
Right.
It's just like all of the institutions in America. There's a systemic institutionalized racism because they got to protect a capitalist system. And they don't need us anymore because of computerization, high technology. We are a problem to them. So build up the prison industrial complex. You remember this bill, the First Step Act that came out of the Congress that Hakeem Jeffries and Donald Trump's Jared Kushner, whatever, they championed along with Van Jones. They thought that was the greatest thing since sliced bread. You know what that bill did? That bill did some early release for some people. So they showed a Black grandmother who got out of jail early, and they showed a few saying, look what this bill could do. But you know what it did? First of all, that bill was for federal prisoners. And it related to 186,000 federal prisoners out of the 2+ million that are in state facilities. Didn't even apply to. That's number one. Number two, it allowed them to come out, many people. Instead of building more prisons, the prison industrial complex are getting into ankle bracelets.
Right.
So they're making money out of the ankle bracelet, which is one of the things me and Latrice Walker was fighting against in this no cash bail thing. They said, okay, we won't put cash bail, but we could put the ankle bracelets on. I said, hell no. That's like being in jail.
Right.
So they making money. Remember, capitalism is about maximizing profits. And capitalism's every area is run by industrial complexes. An industrial complex is that marriage between the CEO and the politician to make profit. You have the military industrial complex that Eisenhower talked about. You have the prison industrial complex, the 13th Amendment. We went from the plantation to the penitentiary because Slavery shall be abolished except as a punishment for crime. And we went from the plantation to the penitentiary, the prison industrial complex. You have the healthcare industrial complex, which is why all of the private health insurance companies were fighting against a public option. You have the education industrial complex, which is why there's a battle with charter schools and public schools. Barack Obama said, we will give you, race to the top, we will give you $750 million for your state for education if you increase your charter school numbers, because it's the education industrial complex. You have the sports industrial complex. Look at the NBA, 30 teams, 29 are white male owners, one owner, Michael Jordan from the Charlotte. You know who was the most ripped off player in all of basketball? Michael Jordan. Check this out, because I'm doing a piece on this, by the way. I'm doing a whole PowerPoint presentation. I'd like to come back and go over that with you, Nat.
Anytime.
But I want these young people, so I'm gonna put a piece together that's gonna show Michael, Duncan, and Kobe and all of their athleticism. Then I'm gonna show you his salary history. When Michael Jordan came into the NBA in 1985, he signed with the Chicago Bulls for $500,000.
Wow.
The Chicago Bulls were worth $20 million. The following year, Michael was and he signed a 7-year, $7 million deal with Nike. The following year, Michael was so hot that first year, Chicago's net worth went up to $100 million. Nike made $110 million. Michael got $7 million out of that. And his salary went from $500,000 to $653,000. The next year, $700,000, $800,000. In his first 10 years, Michael never made more than $4 million. It was his last 2 years when the ripoff was clear that he made $33 million and $35 million, or $30 million and $30 million, his last 2 years. The sports industrial complex, the NBA in 2014 made $5 billion. Don't talk to me about Kobe Bryant making $30 million a year or Melo making 23. How much did that fat white owner sitting on his butt make? The Knicks franchise is worth $3 billion. So if they give out $100 million for the salaries for the players that are making all the money, that ain't nothing. And you know what's interesting? You got to read this book called $40 Million Slaves by Roden. It's an excellent book. Y'all please get it. That's going to be the basis of my presentation. But that $40 million slave book indicates that there's no difference that what happened on the plantation than what's happening in the NBA. There was this guy named Charles Stewart. You know, the horse racing industry, that was us. That was considered a slave sport because the Africans had some relationship with these horses, and they were making big money competing with horse racing on the plantation, boxing on the plantation, and foot racing on the plantation, and oarsmanship. Those were the plantation sports that they had Africans, and it was to make some money for them. When horse racing kicked off, the first Kentucky Derbies were run and won by black jockeys. You know them, Murphy, Wingston, all of them black jockeys. So this guy, Charles Stewart, 1740s, he was on his plantation, and he was making big money for his European enslaver around horse racing. They said to Charles Stewart, do you know there's a Nat Turner right next to you fighting for freedom? He said, I don't have to fight for freedom. I'm getting paid. See, no amount of money changes your slave status. Right. You're still owned. And check this out for free agency. So Charles Stewart's enslaver said, you know what? Since you made me so much money, I'm going to let you pick the next owner you want to go to. I won't just force anybody on you. You could choose your own owner. Is that not free agency? Is that not free agency?
No.
They said to LeBron, you are free now to choose the next owner. What the hell are you doing with an owner in the 21st century?
You choose your next owner.
You choosing your next owner. I don't care if he gives you $1 billion. He owns you.
Right.
How did they put a cap on the player's salary and no cap on the owner's profit?
Right, right.
You know, this is ridiculous.
Right.
This is ridiculous that they don't see that they're making billions. So one year I wrote something to Patrick Ewing when he was the president of the Players Association, and they didn't strike. The players didn't strike. The owners locked them out of their arenas and say, if y'all don't sign on to this contract that's gonna, you know, still allow us to make all this money and put a cap on you and all of this stuff, we're locking, you ain't playing. So the players didn't strike. The owners locked them out. I said, this is a great time to start your own league. That's what Larry Johnson said from the Knicks. He said, Patrick, come on, y'all. Let's start our own league. Let's go to cities, negotiate the arenas. We tell the city, you build the arena, we'll bring the players, and we'll share the profits. We'll share the concession stands, the ticket gates, the TV rights. Let's start our own league. We can do it little by little. Just like you don't need Nike. Start your own sneaker company. Right. But see, they don't want us on that level. So the sports industrial complex is the biggest plantation. And these guys are making so much money, they can't see it. They don't know that tonight, what's his name? Chris Curry, probably making the most right about now. He can't just say, I think I want to play somewhere else. No, you're owned. They'll tell you when you can move on.
Right.
And people should always remember Kurt Flood. Remember Kurt Flood?
Of course, he is
Kurt
baseball. Every dollar they make, right.
He brought into the concept of free agency.
Correct.
He was on St. Louis.
And it cost him everything.
Cost him his whole career and his life. He was like, he went to Lincoln and stuff.
Right.
Kurt Flood said, no, what are you talking about? I'm making $90,000 a year. I'm on the St. Louis Cardinals. We won the World Series, and you traded me to Philadelphia?
Right.
My business is here. My family's here. You can't do that. They said, you either go to Philadelphia or you ain't playing anywhere.
Right.
Kurt Flood said, I'm not going. He challenged them in court. He didn't win. But the very next year, 2 white boys challenged him for the same thing as Flood, and they won. And that's how free agency came. I mention all of that because it's connected to everything we're saying here.
Right.
It's American capitalism with its ideological foundation of racism. Remember, this capitalist system was built on the theft of the land from the indigenous people and the theft of us from Africa to do all of the work. What business wouldn't be successful if you didn't have to pay for real estate or labor?
That's right.
You would be successful. And then this is what we get in return. Not only do we need reparations, we need revolution.
It's beyond interesting that you linked capitalism and racism. And the concept, and maybe it's just my concept, but that a large percentage of us, if not most of us, see both those things as immutable facts of life that we have to adhere to. That the only money to be made is through the capitalist system, and that by some hand of God type edict, the white man is born to dominate all of life on this planet. And we are held in place as much, if not more so, by our belief that the white man is God than the white man actually being God, because the white man is not God. And I'm gonna take that and ask you very specifically, in Brooklyn, what is the hold that the Orthodox Jewish community has over Black politicians in Brooklyn? Is it they got all the money? What is it? What is the power that they have over Black politicians in Brooklyn, that Black politicians in Brooklyn are so afraid to even speak on the fact that the insurrection of the Hasidic community in terms of the coronavirus epidemic, which is like devastating Brooklyn, is reckless, and it puts a lot of people in danger in a life and death situation. It would seem to me that if there was a time when you should be able to say, you know, all of these gatherings that you having for so-called funerals by the thousands, and these holiday celebrations, this, whatever this is not acceptable in this time. But they seem to be terrified of saying anything that would like tell the Hasidic community, you know, you are residents of this place too. What is it? What is it? What they got over
I'm
y'all?
sorry, Charles. Before you answer, I just want to add on to his question. And when you look at the politicians, many of them don't even have a very large Hasidic population in their district. So it's not as if these Hasidic are voting for them. And then connected to the dedication, commitment that they give to the nation of Israel. You know, they have such a commitment to the nation of Israel. And if you criticize the nation of Israel, you know, you stand back. So I just want to add that component, because it doesn't make any sense, because most of these Black politicians don't even have a very large Hasidic or Jewish population in their district.
Well, no, y'all hit it right on the head, because they don't. When I came out here to East New York, I remember Congressman Ed Towns. That's the machine we beat. We beat his machine. And he said to me, Charles, I just want to give you a bit of advice. Go ahead and meet with the rabbi, you know, and you shouldn't make a positive relationship. I said, get the hell out of here. I ain't meeting with no rabbi. 1,000 Russian Jews in my district, and we got, you know, 100,000 of us, and I got to meet with the rabbi? So that ain't happening, because ain't nothing they could do. I think it's a mentality more than anything else. Steve Biko said it best: the most potent weapon in the hands of the oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. We're fighting a mentality. Sometimes it doesn't make any sense. Just as you said, no, they can't even hurt them, and some of them ain't even getting money for them. But they won't criticize Israel. When I was running with Hakeem Jeffries for Congress, and they bring the whole world against me, Hakeem was on there saying Israel lives in a hostile environment.
Right.
Surrounded by a hostile, then like me,
right.
They're living in a, remember that? They live in a hostile neighborhood. This man was more loyal to Israel than Africa. He didn't know nothing about Africa, but anything with Israel on it, I mean, he was just totally loyal to them. And a lot of it was, yeah, they're going to vote for him and give him money, especially because it was me. And I was saying Israel is a terrorist state. And they get mad at me because I say, you're not the Jews of the Bible. They were Black. You're European converts to Judaism. Moses and Abraham is not your daddy. He's ours. You just converted to our religion. We can't stop that. 2, that is not your land. That is not the promised land. And you stole that. You are settlers, illegal, immoral settlers on Palestinian land. And we can even make the case even greater to say both of y'all need to get lost, because African people were there first.
That's right.
But that's an extension of Africa. But be that as it may, we'll just deal with the Palestinians
for now.
For now. I'm going to tell him, you know, may he rest wherever he's resting. What's his name? Lou Fiddler. He called me anti-Semitic, and I said, Lou, you always walk around here. You're a lawyer, like you're so intelligent. I will challenge you to a public debate on Israel. Don't call me more anti-Semitic. First of all, the Semites are black.
Right, you're not a
Right.
Semite.
I can never
right?
be anti-me. But since you don't with that, let's have a public debate. Let's talk about the Balfour Declaration, where the English Lord Balfour, because the Jews were in England and they were fighting, terrorizing the Menachem Begum and the Ergen. They were terrorizing the English, and they were in Russia, and they were looking for a homeland. They were looking for a promised land for themselves. They looked at Uganda and they said, no, that's landlocked. They looked at Venezuela and it was looking at different places. They said, oh, so Lord Balfour said, take Palestine and protect the Suez Canal for us. And we will, because the superpowers were France and England at that time, and we will protect you from the Palestinians. So they went there. Matter of fact, you know, they were in Brooklyn. The Jews in Brownsville. A man by the name of Charles Brownstone or Brown something, that's what Brownsville's named after. You ever notice there's a street in Brownsville called Herzl Street? Theodore Herzl was a Zionist. Theodore Herzl was one of the fathers of Zionism, him and Chaim Weizmann. Theodore Herzl and Weizmann are the fathers of Zionism, which is a Jewish nationalist movement, and they're not necessarily Judaism. They're more of a political movement.
Right, that's
they
what
hooked
it
up
was.
with America, and they hooked up with Europe to find a homeland for the Jews. And so Zionism's father, Theodore Herzl, was looking at Brooklyn.
Right.
They named the street today is Herzl Street. What the hell are we doing with a Herzl Street in Brooklyn?
Right.
That movement displaced Palestinian people. I went to the Gaza Strip. They told me, oh, you know, you can't go there because Hamas is a terrorist organization. The people of Gaza voted for Hamas. That's their legitimate government.
Right.
I'm going to Gaza and I'm bringing 2 of my staff persons. I went to Christine Quinn and all of them. They said, you can't. Are you going to Israel? Who's paying your way?
Right.
The Israel Lobby Group? Well, I'm having my way paid by the Palestinian organization, and I'm going to Gaza. And I dare somebody to say something. I dare you to try to stop me. Don't tell me I can't go to the Gaza Strip because they are listed as some terrorists. I'm going. I went. They had a fit. I went to Gaza. That place was, oh my God, y'all. Oh my God. I mean, every night they had to deal with tanks coming, and there's a big warship, so nothing comes in by water. Then there's planes, nothing comes in by air. And then we went through the border of Rafah, and I had to negotiate to get us through. I have to admit this, I had to use Obama. When we 200 of us were in buses, and we got to the border of Rafah, and the Egyptian army came out. I said, oh, Lord, I know I got to die sometime, but I'm down with the Palestinians, but I'd rather die in Africa or not here. I don't want to die here. So I said, and then we had some people, they were scared. I said, wait a minute, I got this. And I went up to the general, and I said, my name is Charles Barron, and I'm with Barack Obama. And I'm a Democrat. I'm a Democrat. It's the first time I wanted to be a Democrat.
That's why they hate Barack Obama.
I'm a Democrat with Barack Obama's party. Said, oh. So they called up and they found out I was a councilman in government. They said, he's a government official. I said, yes, Barack Obama, Democrat. Yes.
Obama.
So they took me to the foreign minister's office. And I was explaining to him that I was with this group. We had like $200 million worth of stuff. And he said, well, y'all can't take we had a bunch of vans to bring in so they could use them as ambulances.
Right.
A lot of medical equipment. This politician from George Galloway, he was really pushing it from England. He wanted me, and Cynthia McKinney was with me, and Tulu from Dead Prez, you know, he was there too. And I had my staff and about 200 people. So he said, you know, Councilman, I'm gonna do you all this favor because Israel don't like what y'all doing. They're putting a lot of pressure on us. and we don't need it. You got 24 hours. Man, I never moved so fast in my life. We got in that car, we got past the border, and I said, listen, y'all, let's move it. We went to the hospitals and gave them the medical equipment. It was such a blown out place. It was like World War II.
Right.
And they were digging these tunnels. They said they dig in tunnels so they can get under the border to get food. Because they were starving, no electricity, no running water. Oh my God, it was a death camp.
Right.
And that's what I came back and said in the Amsterdam News. And I said, Israel got a lot of nerve. As many of them that were killed in a death camp, they're going to create a death camp for Gaza. Because if you don't allow nothing in and nothing out, that's a concentration camp, a death camp. And that's what you did. So for those reasons, you know, they really, but how could you not support the Palestinian cause? I don't even support this two-state solution. I used to play in politics when I was in the city council. I said, okay, I put this is how crazy they are. I put a resolution together saying no more, you know, killing Palestinians, no more killing Jews. Let's have establish. I said establish a Palestinian state, and you know, I said Israel already exists as a state rather than saying, you know, keep it. And you know, they took that out because I said a rabbi called me up, said, we don't like that you said an even-handed policy in the Middle East. I said, what? So you think it should be an odd hand for you? I said, get out of here. Get out of here. You know, like, and you know, with I had the vote. I had 3-2, but the speaker got to, may he rest in peace, got to James Davis, and James Davis left, because what they do sometimes say, if you can't vote, you know, against me, for it, just be absent, and then we'll have the vote. And that's what happened. That's how I lost my resolution. But yeah, our people are afraid of that. And then some people are looking for them, once again, like what you mentioned earlier, and me and Noel was saying earlier, personal ambition. It goes over whether they're killing Palestinians, or even in Crown Heights, when we was in the Black United Front, we used to have battles with the Hasidic Jews with the National Black United Front. We had about 200-300 brothers in our gear. So when they mess with us, you know, even Stevens. And once they realized it was even Stevens, they got cool. It's the same thing that's going to happen with police brutality. If you don't start prosecuting police and put them in jail, then don't blame me, the social forecaster, for the explosion. Because when peaceful methods for change are rejected or ignored, violence is inevitable.
It's already happening.
The police commissioner said, "Oh, he's the assemblyman is borderline, you know, committing a crime." I said, "Please bring it. Make my day. Arrest me for saying that. You're lucky we're talking."
No.
And
it's already happening. It's already happening. When all else fails to organize the people, conditions will. And in Fort Greene on May 2nd, there was a confrontation, the police going there about a music complaint, somebody, them playing their music. And ultimately, the police retreated. They backed off because they were about to be met with aggression. One of the things that the guy was talking about was that when white people are playing their music, nobody says anything. Now you want to gentrify that neighborhood. Now white folks are complaining about music. This is in the middle of the afternoon, and street kids were talking about things that were political in nature. Gentrification, police, uneven-handed policing in the Black community. And Charles Barron didn't have anything with that. God knows Nat Wood ain't have anything to do with that. That was a byproduct of what is being done in communities of color in regards to police. The same thing in Michigan. White folks been arming up with machine guns and storming the state office, and nobody said anything. When they threatened that Black politician, Blacks armed themselves and escorted her. The conditions contributed to that. not anything said by people who are in the activist community.
And one of the reasons why the police had to back up, if you remember back in the days of the Black Panther Party, it was important for members of the Black Panther Party to be able to recite the Constitution. So when the police came up on you and you recited it, you knew he wasn't dealing with no ordinary Joe. The reason why that brother was able to back the police officers up, I mean, he was aggressive and he was angry, but he knew what he was talking about. Listen, we've been in this community for years. We're doing the good work in here.
Correct.
You know, there's social distance going on. You know, you have some newcomers who may not be happy about the level of the music, but it's an afternoon, it's not too loud. So it was his ability to articulate his position that backed the police officers up.
Correct.
And, you know, they were backed up. And, you know, it was a situation that if I was a commanding officer, you know, I wouldn't even assent uniform officers to resolve an issue like that, especially at this time. Everybody's stressed.
Right.
You know, everybody's, you know, going through a lot. And there has to be a greater level of sensitivity. I mean, we're supposed to, by definition, be public servants. There has to be a certain level of sensitivity to the time that we're in the community that we're dealing with. So I would ask some community affairs officers to go over there and speak to them. I mean, they should have a relationship. Or if there was a beat officer who was familiar with them, you know, to see what's actually going on. You send 3 or 4 police cars, 6 or 8 officers.
Yeah, that's right.
That's not a good look.
It's going to escalate. Right. And you're right, Noel, because these isolated incidents, they're going to occur. They've been occurring for years. But we can't just do spontaneous rebellions.
Right.
That's not organized for the long haul.
Right.
So if we keep doing spontaneous rebellions, you know, we can burn something down, you know, the police might get hurt, or we might get hurt, and most likely us. That has to be turned into some organizing effort.
Right.
That's what Huey P. Newton was saying in the Black Panther Party, you know, like the spontaneous rebellions have a short-lived impact. And they might even do a little something here to cool it out. But for the most part, that's not going to get us the changes that we want. I told people, I said, listen, I'm writing a book. It should be out in another month or 2 on speaking truth to power. It's a compilation of about 70, 80 articles that I've written over the decades, and I compiled it in it. And one of them, I was saying that on the back of it, I said, listen, the fires in Ferguson and in Baltimore are going to look like Boy Scout campfires compared to the flames that are going to blaze across this country.
Right.
We don't do something about the economic oppression and the police terrorism.
Right.
Our people are not going to take this much longer.
Right.
They're not going to go on no peaceful demonstrations forever. Some people are tired of it right now. Some people say, look, we do all of that. We have all these thousands demonstrate, and they still kill us.
Right.
Tell us to vote. We vote for Negroes who do nothing.
Right.
You tell us to, you know, don't spend our money here, and there ain't nowhere else to spend the money because you don't have nothing.
Right.
So at some point, that's why we got to really think. We got to really think this thing through and say, okay, we've done everything. What haven't we done? We've had conferences, we've had demonstrations, we have elected officials, we have preachers, but now it's the institution. The Black church has to get back into Black liberation theology like we did in the 60s.
Right.
And connect your personal salvation with our collective liberation. It can't be just about your personal salvation.
Right.
Black businessmen can't be just thinking about Black capitalism. I understand that we live in a capitalist society and all of us are part of it, but we got to start thinking about community land trust.
Right.
Where we get the community together to own the land. So just like you gave it to that private developer for $1, give it to the community for $1.
Right.
Just like you gave them free money called subsidies, give us free money called subsidies. We got to get into a collective business enterprises called worker cooperatives. So now, if we could collectively own enterprises, collectively produce the things that we're consuming, then we can have that dollar circulate in our community 3, 4, 5, 10 times before it leaves, instead of from your hand to Kentucky Fried and out. You know, those are the things we got to look at. So these crises provide us with an opportunity to think this through. The hardest place to make radical change is America.
Right.
We're in the belly of the beast. Here's one of the things about Africans in America that are very different from Africans in the Caribbean and very different than Africans on the continent. Africans on the continent, that's their land and they're clear.
Right.
Africans on the continent, in every country, they are the majority.
Mm-hmm.
Africans on the continent, except for maybe South Africa when the whites called them themselves Afrikaners, the Europeans knew that they had a place to go if there was too much pressure. And go back to England, go back to Spain, go back to Italy, you know. Here, we're not in the majority numerically. Here, this is not our land. Here, these Europeans and Americans, they ain't going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
There's 326 million people in America. At best, if we gave 50 million for Latinos and 50 million for us, that's 100 million. That's at best.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to look at this differently. Let's start. You know, African proverb says the best way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. Don't try to swallow the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let's start in our communities from the bottom up. Get that city council seat. Control East New York. That's what I'm doing. I could have been a citywide leader, a statewide leader, probably could have had some national recognition.
Right.
I'm not interested, but I'm trying to lock down East New York. So this is a model. Say, look, if you stay focused and egoless and you think more collective and you prioritize your people and our struggle, look what we could do. We could win city council seats. We can win state assembly seats. We can wipe out the neo-colonial Black puppets of the Democratic Party. They don't exist in East New York anymore.
Certainly don't.
They don't.
Yeah, I know.
We could do that everywhere. And from that, we can make revolution from the bottom up. Start changing people's thinking about this capitalist system. Introduce them to other systems and concepts of economics, collective, more collective. Introduce them to having a different definition of success. It's more collective than it is personal. So that's what I'm hoping to do. And out of this crisis can come a great opportunity.
I'm going to apologize to you for selfishly keeping you here this long. I'm going to let Noel have the last interaction with you in case he has something else he'd like to ask you. I do want to say that a lot of the people who are so vehemently opposed to your approach to politics really should get down and thank you, because your approach to politics and the issues confronting this nation are actually far more civilized and doable than the alternatives that they will be met with if we continue on this path. But I'm gonna hand it over to Noel to take us out of here.
Well, I'm gonna sum up, and I just, just like to say, Charles, not only on behalf of myself, but our people, we actually ancestors and the Creator to continue to bless you. I mean, because I know how hard it is to consistently struggle. You've been consistently struggling. You haven't taken a vacation from the struggle.
Right.
People have a problem, they call you. People have so many expectations, they don't contribute anything. And I know that is exhausting. Mentally, physically, spiritually, it's exhausting. You are to be commended. You are the premier, and you have been the premier politician in New York State. You've been consistently fighting, and I know it's draining sometimes, and I know sometimes it may feel like it's a thankless position. And I just want you to know, brother, that I appreciate you. Our people who have our eyes and mind open appreciate you. Many people you don't even know, because I speak to some people who respect you from a distance. And I just ask the Creator, and I'm thankful for the Creator and the ancestors for you and your wife, and for your consistent, persistent commitment to our people, and I want you to know, brother, you are appreciated.
Well, thank you so much. That means a lot to me, because to be straight talk with you, when I get up in the morning and I think of God and I think of my African queen, I don't know what I would do without Inez. She's brilliant. She's strong. She's out there. The difference between the way Inez and I fight, when Inez gets you, she'll be talking to you, speaking her truth like a sword. You'll go home and say, how did I get this swollen eye? You won't even notice she hit you.
Right.
Get home.
Get home.
Me, I will be cocking my fist from the first word on, and you'll see mine coming. So you better duck or hit me back. But my queen, Inez, she's been a blessing to me. And we always say, look, we got each other and we got God. And we got our family. And we may not have much more than that, even though we think we do. A lot of people were praying for us. And a lot of appreciation. But no, I get up. I'm so excited about life. I just know we're going to win. That you can't just let your biological eyes be your vision.
Yes, sir.
You got to have
third eye,
the mind's eye.
Right.
So that you can see where we're going, because people did this before and we're going to be fine. So when I wake up and if I see people in the street, I see kings and queens and princesses. Potentially, I don't see what I'm looking at.
Right.
I see what all it could be.
Right.
That's what I wake up to every morning. Because if you just see with your biological eyes, you'll quit.
Right.
You'll quit. And if you just deal with knuckleheads who hit you, and I don't even pay them any mind. I used to, when Michelle Obama said, when they go low, you go high. No, when they go low, I'm getting down there too.
That's right. That's right. Get a little low.
I go low. You gonna go street? I'm coming street.
Speak the language. Speak the language they understand.
Intellectual, but I'm gonna speak the language you understand.
That's right. That's right.
I battle, and then people say, "How could you go up to Albany? It's just you." But you know what happens? When I go up to Albany, they say, "Oh Lord, here comes Barron."
That's right.
Rather than me saying, "Oh man, I gotta go to Albany."
Exactly.
Some are gonna be against me. I get up in that chambers. As soon as I stand up, some of them go, and others go, "Yes." And I know I'm the voice for some, and I'm a pain in the behind for others.
That's right.
And I love every minute of it. I know we are going to win. No form of our oppression is permanent.
Yes, sir.
It's temporary. Life is hard if you take it by the yard, but it's a cinch if you take it inch by inch.
All right, give the queen our love as well.
Yeah. Not only that, tell the queen that we look forward to having her sitting in that chair.
Good.
We cannot wait. We practiced on you just so we could get
No. You gotta get the main course. I'm just appetizing.
We gotta close this show.
I'm appetizing. Get the main course next.
Yeah. No, you the boom we opened there, but we gonna end with that bang that's your wife.
There you go. That she is. Thank you all. I love both of you.
Stay strong, brother. Likewise.
God bless you and your family. Right.
Thank you.
And thank you, brother. Peace.
We're not congregating. No, we're not. That's why I asked you. People, go that way. Right here. There you go. Stand right here. Thank you. Thank you. What are you talking about, sir? On what corner? We're not in the corner, sir. This is not a corner. We're in front of this non-profit organization that stops gun violence. Stop harassing me, please. You are. I'm asking you what it is. Now you're talking about congregating. First it was music. I'm trying to talk to you. Have a good day. Let's not talk anymore. All right. Nothing to talk about. We're staying here with y'all. You're blocking the sidewalk. You're blocking the sidewalk. Step back, everybody. Bro, space out. Space out. You're talking too much now. You're talking too much. You're talking too much. You're talking too much. Keep going now. Keep moving. Keep it going now. Keep it moving. What y'all want to do is harass me. I'm suing NYPD for harassing me. Y'all know who I am. Stop harassing me every day. If you jacking this, right? You know you having no conversations, right? You just quiet, right back there? Come on, bro.
Look, 311 complaints. This is the reason why we're here.
I got you.
Very simple. Just turn the music off and that's it. All right?
So now you going for you.
That's it.
You know I told you, I told you respectfully, you never had no issues.
I showed you exactly. You've seen it with your own eyes.
Right. Going forward, bring a black man to talk. I don't want to talk to you ever again. Bring a black man to talk to me. Y'all talk to me in my community. Bring a black man, I want to talk to you. Y'all disrespectful.
Just turn the music off.
Bro, the music ain't on, bro. I heard you. Listen.
But that's why we here.
I understand that. Listen, I respect that. I understand that. I know that you didn't just come for that. Thank you for that right there.
That's it.
Well, with that being said, tell this community we're going to continue to play our music when we're doing what we do in our community. If that's a crime, lock me up for that crime.
You have to understand.
Like, we want these are white people who just moved in this neighborhood. We've been out here all our lives, bro.
If people want to say the music is loud, that's why we here.
I understand that, bro. I got you. I know. I respect that. I got you, bro. I'm with you on that.
The music is off, that's it.
Bro, I'm going to play music as long as I want to. That's what I'm telling you. I respect. Understandable. Respectable, sir.
That's it.
Respectable and understandable. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Now, the same way he showed you that, he can show you people on the street that was dancing, that was having a good time.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But you see, everybody knows you need a person.
It's the white people that's hating the black man.
know that.
It's the white people that's hating the black establishment that's changing the community.
Amplify
It's the
noise,
white
man.
people in their windows that's hating me because I stopped violence out here, bro. That's what you hear in these windows. These white people, these Asians who hate black men who making change in their community. That's what you hearing, bro. That's who's complaining. The white people moved in Fort Greene. All of us been out all our lives, born and raised in Fort Greene. Born and raised our whole lives. They move in and tell me I can't play my music. But when he playing this across the street, nobody's saying nothing. It's harassment. It's racial profiling.
Half of us is older than all of them.
And we ain't even playing no music. You staying here like we committing a crime. Now you trying to find a case. You trying to create something. You're ill-trained. You're just a tough guy with a badge. You're ill-trained. You don't have no communication skills. No skills.
What's happening?
We good, brother. Yeah, they're harassing us. Talking about people calling complaints on this music.
So what? So what? People play music all the
Hear me
time.
out. Hear me out 1 second, okay? We came in here, we told you to turn it down, right? That's all. Could have ended. You turned it down. Thank you very much. Good. Have a nice day, all right?
You too. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
We respect each other, got it?
Yes.
When we come over here, you lower the radio. When we tell you to lower radio, you lower it.
Oh, you got the wrong idea, my guy. Don't go like that.
No.
Sorry.
No.
You don't talk to me like that.
I will
You was
talk-
respectful at first.
I
You
am
telling me?
I am
Yo, and
respectful.
we don't want to talk no more. Have a good day.
Okay.
I
I hope the radio doesn't go up again.
And what's going to happen?
Okay. We're gonna come back.
Come back and have fun.
Okay.
We'll be here.
Okay.
It's not a crime.
No problem. All right. I'm on video right now.
All right, I'm just getting your number.
Yeah, right there.
B-A-S-S-A-L-O.
Got it. All right. I'm gonna refill the radio
Thank you.
now.
You know I am. Y'all stop harassing me. I'm going to sue the whole NYPD for harassing you. Yes, I will. I know. You're a tough guy. You want to argue, and you're in a white shirt, Lieutenant. You're disrespectful to our community. Now, your commanding officer left. Have a good day, sir. The commanding officer said leave. The commanding officer said leave. The lieutenant said leave. The lieutenant said leave. Have a good day, guys. Have a good day. Get in those cars and have a good day in precinct. And I will be calling the chief of patrol. And I will have a conversation with Chief Madry about this harassment. I will be contacting Chief Madry about this harassment. I will be contacting Chief Madry about y'all harassing me in front of my establishment over music. I will. I will. It's harassment. You documenting it. Every time y'all come to me and harass me, I'm documenting it. You're a little fake tough guy. Chill, bro. I know you are, bro. I don't care about that. I ain't gonna no crime. You know I am. Shut up. Shut up, tough guy. You ain't here about nothing. You fronting. You know who we are. Stop fronting. Get your car and get out of here. You police. That's it. You the police. That's it.